As the U.S. threatens more tariffs against Canada, two of the largest unions in North America are calling on President Donald Trump to reconsider. The United Steelworkers and the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers wrote a joint letter to Trump's trade representative, Jamieson Greer. It reads, in part, "We call for renewed engagement and negotiations to return our relationship to a more stable, balanced footing. Our priority must be to align our trade policies to address the challenges posed by unfair and predatory trade practices of countries like China, not to drive a further wedge between our nations." Roxanne Brown is the international president of the United Steelworkers. Thanks for doing this. Appreciate coming on the show. Your letter has got a lot of attention. What specifically would you like to see U.S. Trade Rep Jamieson Greer do after he's now received and read this?
Thank you so much for having me tonight, Peter. You know, I think for me and President Brian Bryant both, we really just wanted to be on record about our concerns about the upcoming 338 tariffs. No one on your program is surprised about the suite of tariffs, right, that have been laid across the Canadian economy. And we know very well that there is a lot of pressure. These additional tariffs will create additional pressure. And so we're hoping that there can be a meeting of the minds between Ambassador Greer and the Canadian Trade Ambassador to try to find a path forward that does not lead to an additional round of tariffs on the Canadian economy.
Have you been able to get any response, either back-channeled or official, from either Greer or the Canadian trade, or our trade ambassador or trade minister is Dominic LeBlanc?
Right. Yeah, no, I was just with Ambassador Greer on Monday. We sent our letter out on Tuesday. And the meeting I had with him on Monday, really, and Brian Bryant was in that meeting as well. We echoed the same sentiment that was in our letter on Tuesday. And, the ambassador is always receptive. We always operate from a place of transparency with the administration around trade issues. And we were very clear that our folks are feeling the pressure in Canada. Our members are feeling the pressure in Canada, that there have been impacts. Folks are afraid of their livelihoods. We have about 1,500 members who have experienced negative economic consequences. And we want to reverse that, and we want to stem that tide. And so we're very clear that Canada should not face the ire of the United States when it comes to trade policy, because Canada is our closest friend and ally. We should really be focusing with efforts on bad actors.
And yet, your letter makes it clear that you stand by a lot of the, we will continue to support policies where we can, and that you feel some of these, and especially I think the steel tariffs, have worked well. What is it about these in particular that you think will harm where you support the other ones?
I think it's just the sum total of tariffs against Canada, and the fact that it cuts across so many different sectors, including sectors like forestry for us, where there have been kind of these long-standing impacts, and they've only gotten worse under the pressure of these tariffs. And we really want to spend 35% on tariffs on the forestry sector in Canada. This will create additional cost and economic pressure in the sector and potential job losses that we don't want to see. People just want to make a living. They want to be able to go to work. They want to be able to count on their jobs, not just today, but into the future. They want to be able to have their economic activity play a role in their communities. That's what we want, right? And that's the conversation we're having with Ambassador Greer. And also not just about the impacts on the Canadian side, right? There are products that go across the border between the United States and Canada multiple times before that product is finished and finalized. Each time it goes over the border to Canada, it's hit with a cost. And that creates uncertainty, not just for the job on the Canadian side of the border, but also on the U.S. side of the border that is connected to that Canadian job, right, with around that product. And so we're trying to peel back the onion, for the U.S. Trade Ambassador around what these economics look like in real time, practically for steelworker jobs, not just in the United States, but also in Canada.
You know, we talk a lot in this country about what impact all these are going to have on the Canadian economy and on Canadian businesses and Canadian firms. I wonder, just walk us through, especially with this latest salvo, like one of the things that they're targeting in these tariffs that if they come through on August 19th is cement. You need cement to build anything. You get a lot of cement, especially from the West Coast, into the United States. What impact will these have on the American economy, on American workers and American businesses if they go ahead?
You know, and I think it remains to be seen across a whole suite of sectors. And I think that's probably one of the most challenging things of this time. As I said earlier, you know, our practice as steelworkers for now almost 5 decades, we've had to utilize our trade policy to try to equalize and level the playing field between the U.S. economy and bad actors, right? Canada has not been one of those bad actors. And so for us, we really, really want Ambassador Greer to work with the Canadian Trade Minister so that we jointly can go at the bad actors who are dumping products into the United States, like steel and aluminum and cement and tires and so many other products. That's where we want the focus to be. Our economy depend on each other. Please, go ahead.
Well, I would just like to push back because you have supported the steel tariffs that have driven up the costs for, like, yes, it's done good for the steel industry, but there's like 75 times more people in America that use steel to make stuff than there are people that make steel, and you supported those tariffs. I wonder what has changed and why it's this round of tariffs that has you speaking out and not the last round that has caused so much damage on both sides of the border.
Yeah, we supported the Section 232 tariffs that were done in 2017 because we were in a suspended period of devastation for jobs across the U.S. domestic steel and aluminum sectors. It was a devastating period, and there needed to be a very strong remedy put in place so that the thousands upon thousands of jobs in the U.S. that were being lost in the domestic steel and aluminum sectors, that there was a stemming of that tide. And during Trump 1, we were able to kind of work with then the trade ambassador Lighthizer and the Canadian government to try to find a place, right, of agreement around those tariffs. The environment around the second Trump administration has been different. We do not disagree. We still believe and know that we need the Section 232 tariffs. We would like there to be, again, kind of a meeting of the minds as we had during the first Trump administration. We're not there yet. Similarly, we're not there with the suite of tariffs that have been laid across, the additional tariffs that have been laid across the Canadian economy. But it's an ongoing conversation that we are having with Ambassador Greer. We are not, to be quite frank, we are not letting up in this conversation, neither our union, neither the machinists. We need them to understand how difficult these pressures are on the members and their jobs in Canada, and that we are in a process with Cruising where we can actually find a place forward and a path forward where we can go back to the close allied relationship two governments have had together. And so that's where we remain, and we will continue to press there.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there, but I really do appreciate your time on this. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.